A very good morning, folks. Dave Thackeray, the podcast guy at thepodcastguy.com, with the latest in a series of quick tips guiding you to create popular, incredible, polished podcasts. So, I'm doing exactly what it says on the tin today. Tell me which podcast I'm listening to at your WordPress site. Okay, so here's what happens. You install the PowerPress plugin and that handles your RSS feed so that you can send it to FeedBurner. And then FeedBurner ultimately provides the gatekeeper service for your feed to future-proof it, to safeguard it if you choose to move from WordPress, and it publishes your feed to iTunes and other podcast directories. Okay, so let me just show you exactly what happens on my very, very latest post. And this post is at thepodcastguy.com, and it's the latest show, show 15, Get Your Podcast On, which talks all about how to launch your podcast in 10 quick steps. thepodcastguy.com/launch podcast if you want to see more about that. Right at the top here, you'll see the audio player, which is from the audio player plugin. And right down the bottom, you'll see here, this is the HTML5 player in action from PowerPress. This is the standard PowerPress player. Anyway, you only get one type of player with PowerPress, but as we know, people get stimulated by various different visual stimuli. So I like to use two, and I also like to use a different one at the top to the one at the bottom. Okay, so that shows you the different volume styles. Anyway, audio player. The problem with audio player in the past has been this. You can only see information of this nature because the details aren't exactly precise in terms of what you want to use your audio player for. And to do that, I've created this. This is in full screen at the back end of my WordPress installation. I've created a new post. I've called it How to Use Audio Player, as it says there. And I've also created a shortcode to the audio player instance. Now, this is how I always used to use it. I use audio : then the full reference to the URL of the MP3 file that I've stored somewhere, in my case, libsyn. And that's how I used to use it. I couldn't find a way to put this detail in. Look at this, right up here. Get your podcast on, and later on it will show you episode 15. This is the stuff that people want to see. This is really important. It's labeling, it's tagging, it's signposting. Okay, so how do I go from here, which just creates that, to here, which gives you the full details? Well, I'll tell you how, very, very quickly. In the frequently asked questions area of the WordPress audio player site at wpaudioplayer.com, you'll see right down the bottom, how do I get the track information to show in the player? And right here, it says you have to use an extension using pipes straight after you've referred to your podcast MP3 file. Add a pipe, then titles equals, then the title of your show, then another pipe, then artists equals, then your name or the name of your organization. And again, multiple files there if you want to do some sort of a jukebox. Anyway, so what that does, and if I just show you quickly here, go back to here and I'll just whack that bit in just to show you how it works. Going to go back here, then I'm going to add that stuff onto here like that, and I'm going to remind myself what the name of the title of the show was. This is nothing if it's not professional. Okay, so titles is Get Your Podcast On. Podcast On. An artist, of course, is the podcast guy. Let me save that. Okay, and let me exit full screen and preview that for you so that you can see how that looks. Remember, that's how it looked in the first place. And now, straight away, the podcast guy and the information appears. That's great. That's thepodcastguy.com. You've been listening to one of my latest quick tips. If you want any more, drop me a line, Dave at thepodcastguy.com, or tweet me at thepodcastguy on Twitter. If you've got any other questions, please do drop me a line. I'm happy to make any more of this information available to you as and when you need it. Bye for now.